Okay, hi everyone. My name is Emily Rouse. I am the co-chair, the entrepreneur co-chair of the West Virginia Entrepreneurship Ecosystem. Thank you for joining us for our second West Virginia Entrepreneurship Ecosystem LinkedIn Lunch, where once a month we highlight a process or resource that we have to go through as an entrepreneur, and we have somebody come on, speak about the process, give us a direct contact, and give us those next steps for navigating. So last month we started with the West Virginia State Tax Division, and they walked us through how to register your business with the West Virginia State Tax Department. And this month we have Christina Davidson joining us, the supervisor of the West Virginia State Tax Department Withholding Unit, to kind of go into the next steps after you've registered your business. What do we have to do next to take care of those withholding taxes? So I will go ahead and turn it over to Christina. She'll walk us through her presentation, and then happy to take on any questions at the end there that you need to get answered.
Hello, everyone. So, welcome to West Virginia withholding tax. Let's go over the disclaimer first. This presentation is meant to be a source of general information and not as a substitute for tax laws, rules, or regulations, and may not be relied upon as legal or tax advice or to support specific instances not addressed. The material presented may contain simplified explanations of potentially complex legal and tax concepts so as to apply generally across broad areas of tax practice, both legal and accounting, and is intended for general overall application. Individual comments by presenters are meant to be illustrative in the nature and are not intended as official tax policy. So these slides, we'll see that, the basic withholding tax, the calculating and remitting of withholding tax, filing and record keeping, supports and resources. Um, so West Virginia withholding is not a new tax, but rather a collection method. It ensures the state receives revenue continuously rather than in one lump sum. You, as the employer, acts as the middleman, deducting a portion of the gross wages and sending it to West Virginia tax. And why is this done? It reduces the sticker shock for the employees at the end of the year. There are two main questions you must ask yourself. Do I do business in West Virginia? And do I pay taxable wages to individuals? If you answered yes to both, you are responsible for withholding and remitting to tax. One thing to keep in mind is the reciprocity agreement with the bordering states. Employees from those states will need to complete the West Virginia IT 104. This form does not need to be mailed to tax. I cannot stress this enough that your obligation starts at the very minute an employee is paid for their services. If it is subject to federal withholding, it is subject to state withholding. Hourly wages are not the only thing subject to withholding. Commissions, bonuses, tips, and even employer paid sick pay. One common misconception is that side pay or bonuses are somehow exempt from the rules. So when you're calculating the exact amount of withholding, it's gross wages minus the exemption certificate, which is the West Virginia IT 104, times the rates found on our website, and that equals the withholding amount for that employee. Be sure to round to the nearest whole dollar. Please note that the new rates have been released to our website, tax.westvirginia.gov, under the withholding section. So withholding is a 4-step repeating loop. You calculate, you withhold, you remit, and you reconcile. Please understand that remitting is not the same as reconciling or filing forms. Just because you submitted a payment does not mean you filed the return necessary for your filing frequency. Most employers fall into the quarterly filer category if they withhold more than 600 annually. Quarterly filers are required to remit payment by the 15th of the month following the close of the month. Anything afterward is considered late unless the 15th falls on a holiday or a weekend, and then it's the next business day. Quarterly returns are due the month following the close of the quarter. So, for example, the first quarter starts January 1st and ends on March 31st. The return is to be filed by the end of April. Annual filers are typically smaller employees or those who employ like domestic or household workers. And those returns and are not due until the 31st of January, and the payment for those are due January 15th. So again, quarterly filers are to remit payments by the 15th of the month following. Quarterly returns are due the end of the month following the close of the quarter. Annual returns and the year-end reconciliations are filed by January 31st. The year-end reconciliation is only to be filed for quarterly filers and must be accompanied by W-2s and 1099s. The standard quarterly return is used to determine the amount of withholding for each month of that quarter. The annual return is to report the year for 600 or less and must include W-2s and or 1099s as well. The West Virginia I-2 the year-end reconciliation, is separate and is mandatory to receive any letters of good standing. It is mandatory that you furnish your employee and tax with a copy of the W-2 and or 1099. For previous years, 25 or more employees were required to file electronically if you employed more than 25 or more. The threshold has been lowered to 10 to follow with IRS regulations. If you file by paper more or more for if you if you file by paper for more than 10, you will be penalized $25 per employee. If you are unable to comply with the electronic filing, you must submit a waiver to our office at least 6 weeks prior to the due date. And the address is located in our guidelines on our website. Our My Taxes portal is an extremely convenient way to stay compliant for withholding tax. You can schedule your payments, you can file your returns, you can upload withholding statements, you can look for any missing information on your account. It's a secure way to communicate with us. Um, it's it's just really convenient. So your to-do list for a business is register your business if you have not already done so. Collect all the exemption certificates from employees and keep them on file with HR. And finally, remember to remit your payments, file your returns, and reconcile at the end of the year. And that's all I have for withholding.
Great, thank you. I have a few questions to kick us off for the Q&A session. If we have that payroll provider, are we able to have them file like through My Taxes, or how do they get access to do that for us?
So if you have a payroll provider, most of the payroll providers that we deal with submit payments through ACH files for their clients. And then we've started a new process for the payroll service providers to file returns through My Taxes. You have to grant them third-party access for them to be able to upload a file with your information in it. So I'm not sure, who I know ADP, for example, has issued letters to people with their login information in their emails saying this is the information that you need to grant us third party access. Please go log on to West Virginia My Taxes and make an account, or log into your account and grant us third party access to continue to file for you.
Okay. And then is uh, the different forms of like withholding taxes, are sales and use tax a form of withholding taxes, or is that something?
It's completely separate.
Okay. Okay. And then if entrepreneurs have questions, who can they reach out to get assistance? You said we could go through My Taxes to communicate, but is there like a direct line of some kind that people can get some help from?
We have tax, the withholding tax unit actually has an email that you can reach out directly, or you can contact Taxpayer Services, which is the 304-558-3333 number that's listed on basically on everything on our website. Um, but I can give you the tax withholding email if there's withholding specific questions and not like, you know, like business registration or anything like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you're ready, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's tax with TAXWITH at West Virginia, or I'm sorry, at WV.gov.
Okay, great. Um, and can you also tell us more about some of the workshops that the West Virginia State Tax Department is doing with the Secretary of State and offering those online right now?
I know they started the business registration workshops, and I know Secretary of State has joined with them to explain the processes of, what I guess each one of them does. I know that we have the sales and use tax workshops.
Mhm.
I'm assuming those are still going on. I believe they're wanting to develop more for for some of the other taxes that we have, like for motor fuels and um, some of the excise taxes that we have. I'm not 100% sure what else they have going on. Um, I can reach out to Brittany for sure and find out.
Good. Yeah, these are all really great resources that I feel like it's nice to be able to have that like on demand help with it and get those questions answered. Does anybody have any questions who's on this call who would like to come off mute or drop a question in the chat for Christina? Okay. All right, Christina. Well, I feel like if anybody does have any questions after this, we can follow up with that email that you provided. We appreciate the resources. I feel like it was pretty straightforward with like when things are due, how to calculate, and like when to remit it and how. So we appreciate the help with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to email us with anything.
Mhm.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.